Welcome back to the life with the Browns. The camera lingers. Too long. Too deliberate. And there she sits, Robyn Brown, tissue in hand, lips quivering, eyes wide, but utterly, completely dry. Not a single tear. Not one drop of moisture. And yet, she leans into her performance as if the entire world must believe she is drowning in sorrow. Her voice trembles, her words falter, and she claims, "Sorry, I am trying to be clear and not be crying." Spectacularly, she succeeds because there were never any tears to begin with. For years, fans have been conditioned to see Robyn as the sympathetic, troubled wife. Quick cuts, fleeting snippets, carefully crafted edits, all designed to elicit pity, to mask inconsistencies, to polish her image. But now, something has changed. The cameras no longer look away. The edits no longer protect. TLC has made a conscious choice: expose her. And the evidence is impossible to ignore. Every extended shot, every lingering frame, every uncut moment is a silent indictment. Robyn's once carefully curated facade is cracking, revealing a woman whose grip on the family narrative is slipping like sand through her fingers. The fake tears were only the first hint of the unraveling. Behind them lies something much more potent: control lost, manipulation laid bare, illusions dismantled. This shift didn't happen by accident. Veteran viewers know exactly when the tide turned, when the sympathetic producer, affectionately nicknamed Puddle Monkey Online, exited the show. Gone are the days of stitched-together interviews that made Robyn appear relatable, authentic, or even victimized. In their place, we now witness extended, uncut scenes where every quiver, every pause, every forced sniff is amplified, showing viewers the true mechanics of her performance. And fans are noticing. The infamous junk drawer scene, a chaotic mess captured in excruciating detail, revealed a home far from the efficient household Robyn claims to run. The phone hypocrisy moment exposed contradictions that had viewers screaming at their screens. And now, these prolonged crying sequences serve as a masterclass in performative emotion, a theatrical display that collapses under even the slightest scrutiny. Social media reactions say it all. One fan wrote, "I am loving the long uncut scenes of her fake crying because it shows how insane she really is." Another noted that the old editing style deliberately hid these inconsistencies, but now, there's no escape. The truth simply rolls across the screen, unedited, undeniable. What's truly fascinating is how intentional all of this appears. These aren't accidental glimpses caught by chance. Every choice is deliberate. The junk drawer wasn't a random cutaway. It was a statement. The phone hypocrisy was an oversight. It was a strategic reveal. And those dry, glittering eyes? Not sympathy, not struggle. They are the centerpiece of a calculated exposure. Fans have dissected Robyn's fake cries in minute detail. The pattern is unmistakable. The downturned mouth that quivers on command, the tissue held dramatically despite no moisture, the perfectly smeared free makeup, the bright, white eyes devoid of any tear. The theories about her methods are wild and numerous. Some say she tries to irritate her eyes before filming. Others claim she stares into harsh studio lights in a desperate attempt to summon a trickle of tears. The most extreme suggestion? Vapor rub or some irritant hidden in the tissue itself. Yet, no matter the method, the results are always the same: empty. As one eagle-eyed viewer perfectly summarized, "My eyes produce more tears after a yawn than Robyn's do during her supposedly devastating emotional moments." The bar is literally on the ground, and she still cannot clear it. And what makes it even more striking is her confidence, her calm, unwavering commitment to the act. She believes in the illusion she has created, and yet, the cameras now betray her at every turn. This is more than just fake crying. This is a dismantling of power, a crumbling of narrative control. Robyn Brown, the long-protected fourth wife of the Browns, is now revealed not through scandalous rumors, but through the stark, unflinching lens of reality television itself. TLC has chosen the truth over sympathy, exposure over protection. And in that choice, the cracks widen. Every tissue, Every forced sniff, every glittering dry eye tells the same story. The illusion has been shattered, and the performer is left exposed. Robyn genuinely seems to believe she is pulling off these emotional displays. She leans into the quivering voice, tissue poised as if it alone can summon tears. She pauses dramatically, giving herself time to collect from feelings that do not exist. And yet anyone with functioning eyes can see the truth. There is no redness.
No puffiness.
No streaks of moisture. Just a woman performing grief while her face stubbornly refuses to participate in the lie. But here is where it gets truly calculated. Fans have noticed a pattern. These fake crying episodes are triggered with precision. Ask her a difficult question, and suddenly the performance begins. Need a moment to craft a story that won't contradict past lies? Cue the quivering voice and the dramatic pause. One sharp-eyed viewer observed that Robyn uses fake crying as a tactical delay, time to remember her fabricated stories, to construct believable responses on the fly. It's not just emotional manipulation. It's a weaponized pause, dressed in the guise of grief. Let's break down what is actually happening behind the camera. Robyn needs to stall, to gain control over the narrative, and she pretends to be overcome with emotion while her brain races to build a response. These tears, always absent, always dry, are not awkward or accidental. They are tactical. They are strategic. Each tremor of the lip, each clutch of the tissue, is calculated to shut down uncomfortable conversations, avoid accountability, and redirect focus away from her own inconsistencies. And the pattern becomes even more disturbing when examined closely. Immediately after the crying begins, difficult conversations die. Questions remain unanswered. Responsibility evaporates. Robyn emerges from these moments as the victim, never the person who must answer for her behavior. The supposed emotional breakdown is never genuine. It is a carefully orchestrated tool of control, wielded to manipulate, delay, and dominate the narrative while keeping scrutiny at bay. Fans have become expert at spotting these tells, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. The quivering mouth, the tissue held in midair, the bright, dry eyes that reveal nothing. It is not emotion, it is strategy. And Robyn's mastery of this performance has, until recently, gone unchallenged. But TLC's cameras are now holding her accountable, exposing the illusion frame by frame. What viewers are witnessing is not just a failed cry, it's the unraveling of control. Every uncut scene, every lingering shot, every dry-eyed moment is evidence of a woman losing command of the story she has spent years trying to shape. And the truth is undeniable. In the world of reality TV, when the illusion collapses, the performer can no longer hide behind it. This is not accidental. This is not coincidence. This is a highly refined manipulation playbook, one Robyn has perfected over more than a decade on reality television. And it has worked brilliantly. It allowed her to dominate the Brown family dynamic while neatly sidestepping responsibility for the fallout left in her wake. Fans have mapped this pattern with ruthless precision. One viewer summed it up in a way that stopped people cold. Any conversation just evolves into histrionics and fake sobbing. And that's the end of it. Full stop. Conversation over. Accountability denied. Think about what that actually means. Every time someone raises a valid concern, every time a difficult truth threatens to surface, every time Robyn is on the verge of being held responsible, out come the tissues. The voice trembles. The performance activates. And suddenly, the focus shifts. No longer is anyone discussing the real issue. Now, everyone is scrambling to comfort poor, overwhelmed Robyn. It is manipulation so obvious it borders on absurd, yet so effective that it has reshaped the entire family structure. This is crying not as emotion, but as control. A hard stop button. A shutdown mechanism that ensures no conversation ever reaches a conclusion she doesn't approve of. And once you recognize this pattern, a lot of things suddenly make sense, especially the growing distance between Kody's older children and the household he shares with his fourth wife. How do you communicate honestly with someone who weaponizes emotion? How do you resolve conflict when every attempt at truth-telling is met with a theatrical collapse that demands silence? The children learned the lesson early. Genuine dialogue with Robyn is impossible, not by accident, but by design. Any attempt to discuss uncomfortable realities triggers an emotional display that immediately ends the discussion. Any effort to seek accountability transforms Robyn instantaneously from the person causing harm into the fragile victim who must be protected. And here's the brutal truth at the center of it all. Robyn's victimhood is not weakness. It is power. She cannot be criticized because criticism hurts her. She cannot be questioned because questions overwhelm her. She cannot be held responsible because responsibility makes her fall apart. And while everyone tiptoes around her emotional fragility, she retains absolute control. Control over the narrative. Control over family dynamics. Control over how she is perceived, both on screen and behind the scenes. This is not emotional sensitivity. It is strategic fragility. And for years, it worked flawlessly. But now, the cameras aren't looking away anymore. And when manipulation is filmed in real time, without protective edits, without sympathetic cuts, it stops being subtle. It becomes undeniable. And that is exactly why this season feels different. At least, that was the plan. Production's new willingness to leave these moments uncut has exposed the mechanism for what it truly is: calculated manipulation masquerading as emotional vulnerability. When the camera doesn't flinch, the illusion collapses. But there is one moment of real consequence, where fans say Robyn showed absolutely nothing. And the irony is impossible to ignore. It was the moment that mattered most. When genuine tragedy struck the Brown family, viewers were watching closely. Not out of cruelty, not out of expectation, but out of instinct. After years of witnessing exaggerated emotional breakdowns over relatively minor conflicts, people naturally wondered how Robyn would respond when grief was no longer theoretical, when it was real. The loss of Garrison Brown devastated the family. And for longtime viewers, the contrast between Robyn's past performances and her response to this tragedy was impossible to overlook. During discussions surrounding Garrison's passing, the familiar theatrics were absent. No trembling voice. No tissues clenched in anticipation.
No quivering mouse.
No visible struggle to hold back tears. Instead, viewers saw what many described as emotional flatness. A calm, detached delivery while speaking about the death of a young man who was, by definition, her stepson. The contrast was jarring, and for many, deeply unsettling. This is a woman who has cried on camera over a nanny leaving. She has cried over feeling excluded. She has cried over online criticism. She has cried when her relationship with Kody faced scrutiny. She has produced dramatic emotional displays over situations that, in the larger scope of life, barely qualify as hardship. And yet, when confronted with the death of a family member, the tears never came. One viewer captured the collective discomfort perfectly when they wrote, "I could not believe her not crying for Garrison. She seemed not to care at all. It ruined it for me." And that reaction wasn't isolated. It echoed across fan spaces because it struck at something fundamental. This isn't about demanding grief look a certain way. It's not about policing how sorrow should be expressed. It's about pattern recognition. When someone repeatedly displays intense emotion over minor issues, but shows none during actual tragedy, it forces a reckoning. Robyn herself established the baseline. Hundreds of crying scenes over the years defined how she supposedly experiences distress. And measured against that history, her response to Garrison's passing appeared disturbingly muted. Fans have been grappling with what this reveals. And the emerging conclusion is uncomfortable. Robyn appears to cry when crying serves a purpose, when it shuts down conversations, when it deflects accountability, when it generates sympathy, when it positions her as the wounded party rather than the one causing harm. But when tragedy offers no strategic advantage, when grief cannot be leveraged, redirected, or used as a shield, the performance disappears. And that realization has fundamentally altered how many viewers interpret everything they've seen before. The tears simply never arrive. Some might argue that real grief is too overwhelming to perform, but that defense collapses under scrutiny. Robyn did speak about Garrison on camera. She had space. She had time. She had opportunity. And according to viewers who examined those moments closely, she showed nothing.
No visible struggle. No emotional crack.
No sign that the loss reached her in any meaningful way. And that leads to an uncomfortable but unavoidable question. If Robyn cannot summon genuine feeling in the face of real family tragedy, what does that say about every single tear she has ever shed on camera before? Fans have wrestled with that question, and the conclusion they're reaching is deeply unflattering. The verdict, increasingly, is brutal. One comment captured the shift perfectly. Evil stepmother. That's what you are, Robyn. There is no excuse for not speaking to your stepkids. Harsh?
Yes.
But what matters is this: sentiments like that are no longer fringe opinions. They've become mainstream among longtime viewers. Robyn Brown has failed, consistently and publicly, to maintain meaningful relationships with any of Kody's children from his previous marriages. After years of explanations, deflections, and blame shifting, fans are no longer willing to accept her version of events. The evidence has piled too high. The pattern is too consistent. And the outcome is too universal across children who otherwise share nothing in common except one thing: Robyn as a stepmother. Let's take a step back and be honest about the timeline. Kody had many children before Robyn entered the picture. Those children had established relationships with their father. The family may have been unconventional, but it functioned. And yet, following Robyn's arrival, nearly every one of those relationships deteriorated or collapsed entirely. That's not coincidence. That's correlation too strong to ignore. The common denominator isn't hidden. It isn't subtle. It's sitting in plain sight, nesting comfortably in her rental, surrounded by protection, supported by a nanny, and deploying tears on command whenever accountability threatens to surface. Robyn entered this family, and one by one, the bonds between Kody and his children weakened.
Not some of them.
Not a few. Almost all of them. Her response has become predictable to the point of parody. She blames Kody. She claims victimhood. She insists she tried everything. She says it's complicated. She argues viewers don't understand what really happened. But fans aren't buying it anymore. One viewer addressed her directly. "You can't put this on Kody. Boo-boo, you married him. You're the stepmom. It was your job to build those relationships." And that's the core of it. Integration was her responsibility. Joining an existing family required humility, patience, and effort, not expectation that everyone else rearrange themselves around her comfort. And here's the hard truth that cuts through all the excuses. A good stepparent makes an effort. A good stepparent understands they are entering an established dynamic. A good stepparent supports, rather than competes with, the relationship between children and their biological parent. Robyn did none of that. Instead, she positioned herself at the center, demanded accommodation, and then played the victim when relationships fractured under the weight of that imbalance. And now, as the cameras stop protecting her and the edits stop softening the narrative, viewers are finally seeing the pattern for what it is. This isn't misunderstanding. It isn't bad luck. And it isn't everyone else failing her. It's a decade-long trail of emotional manipulation, strategic fragility, and relationships left in ruins. And for the first time, the story isn't being told for her, it's being shown as it happened. By every possible measure, Robyn has done the exact opposite of what a healthy stepparent should do. She positioned herself at the center, demanded that the family orbit her needs and her children's needs, and appeared entirely unmoved as Kody's relationships with his other children collapsed, one by one, in plain view. And here's where the story takes an even darker turn. What if that isolation wasn't accidental? What if it was intentional all along? For years, fans have asked the same question, quietly at first, then louder with every season. Why is production suddenly exposing Robyn after more than a decade of careful protection? The shift is undeniable. The shade is deliberate. The lingering shots, the extended crying scenes, the junk drawer moment, the phone hypocrisy. These are not random editorial choices. They represent a fundamental change in how TLC presents Robyn Brown to the audience. Something happened behind the scenes. We may never get an official explanation, but the footage tells its own story. Reality television doesn't pivot like this without cause. And viewers have noticed that the edit no longer cushions her. It no longer rescues her. It simply lets her exist on screen, unchecked, unprotected, unfiltered. Speculation has reached a fever pitch among longtime fans. Has Robyn become difficult to work with? That theory tracks disturbingly well with the behavior we see on screen. Someone who weaponizes emotion to control conversations rarely turns that off when the cameras stop rolling. Did she demand too much editorial control? That would align perfectly with her relentless need to manage her image, her narrative, and her positioning within the family. Were there clashes over storylines? Over screen time? Over how the family's collapse would be framed, and who would be blamed? All of it is plausible. All of it fits the pattern. What makes this production shift especially telling is its timing. These exposing edits arrive during the most catastrophic season in Sister Wives history. The family isn't just strained, it's shattered. Kody is estranged from most of his children. 3 of his 4 marriages have ended. The entire premise the show was built on has imploded. And as that collapse unfolds, production appears to have made a strategic decision. Robyn works better as a villain than as a victim. From a business standpoint, it's obvious. Villain Robyn drives engagement. Villain Robyn fuels comment sections, reaction videos, and endless debate. Villain Robyn keeps viewers watching, not out of sympathy, but out of disbelief. Industry insiders understand this rule well. The moment a cast member becomes more valuable as a villain, the protective edit disappears. The uncomfortable moments make the cut. The camera lingers. The audience finally sees what production has been sitting on for years. Robyn appears to have crossed that threshold. Her villain value now outweighs her sympathetic appeal, and the edit has adjusted accordingly. Every zoom on her tearless eyes is a choice. Every extended scene of her performative grief is intentional. Every unflattering silence is left in on purpose. The people shaping her image are no longer protecting her. And that alone should tell viewers everything they need to know. But the most revealing moment, the one that crystallizes all of this, wasn't about tears at all. It was about hypocrisy. The now infamous phone incident has become legendary among Sister Wives fans because it encapsulates everything wrong with Robyn's approach to parenting, honesty, and self-awareness. In a single exchange, viewers saw the double standards, the control issues, and the moral flexibility laid bare. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet and devastating. And once you see it, you understand why production stopped protecting her. Because when someone shows you who they are, without tears, without performance, without editing tricks, there's nothing left to defend. Viewers aren't watching Sister Wives to understand the family anymore. They're watching to catch Robyn. The show has become a game of spot the manipulation, and Robyn provides fresh material every episode. That marks a seismic shift. In earlier seasons, audiences tuned in for plural marriage dynamics, shared parenting, and unconventional family life. Robyn was polarizing, yes, but she had defenders. People believed her tears, accepted her explanations, sympathized with her position. Those defenders are gone. What changed? Production started showing the receipts, the extended crying scenes, the hypocrisy moments, the contradictions left unedited. And once viewers saw the pattern clearly, they couldn't unsee it. Which raises an uncomfortable question about the show's future and Robyn's legacy within it. Can Sister Wives continue when its 4th wife is so widely despised? Can an image be rehabilitated when production itself appears committed to dismantling it? The answers increasingly look like no, no, and no. Robyn has become the villain of her own story. And unlike fictional villains, she can't be rewritten. The footage exists. The patterns are documented. The audience has rendered its verdict, and production, fans, and even family members seem aligned. So let's synthesize what we've seen. Tears without moisture. Manipulation once protected, now exposed. Total failure to maintain relationships with stepchildren. Emotional flatness during real tragedy. The phone hypocrisy. The junk drawer. Rules that apply to everyone except Robyn. weaponized crying that shuts down accountability. Any one of these could be explained away. Together, they paint a clear portrait, a woman whose presence in this family has been performance, not authenticity. The irony is almost poetic. Robyn worked tirelessly to control her image, and it backfired completely. For years, she believed she was succeeding. Protective editing framed her as sympathetic. Quick cuts hid manipulation. The narrative positioned her as the wife who tried while others failed. And now that protection is gone, the cameras linger. The edit exposes. And Robyn, who believed she was fooling everyone, is now visible to millions for exactly who she is. So, what emotion does she display authentically? Viewers have thought long and hard about that. And the consensus is unsettling. The only feeling that consistently reads as real is smug satisfaction. Satisfaction when she's the only wife left. Contentment when her children have full access to their father while others don't. Triumph disguised as fragility. The crying is fake. The concern is staged. But the sense of having won feels genuine. After 17 seasons, one question remains. Is Robyn capable of genuine emotion, or has it all been an act from the beginning? That distinction matters, because it separates a woman who made mistakes from a woman who executed a plan. And judging by what production is now showing us, the evidence points in one direction. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What was the most obvious fake crying moment you noticed? Because at this point, the audience has become better at spotting Robyn's manipulation than she is at performing it. And that may be the most fitting legacy of all, for someone who spent nearly 2 decades believing she had fooled everyone.